Hi, everybody. So I want to introduce you to Heather Leigh, and she has a book out, and I think it's a really great subject. And a lot of people are asking me about their animals and Ascension. So I think that Heather Leigh is going to be able to speak to that today. So how are you, Heather?
Hi, honey.
Hi.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Me too. It's going to be fun. And I wanted to talk to you. So you talk about your pets and how they are spirit guides. So I'd like to hear about that because everybody is very connected to their pets.
Yeah, so in my book, Canine Spirit Guides, I introduce a new concept to humanity, which is the fact that our dogs connect us with canine spirit guides, which are not the spirit guides, or they're not the essence of your very dog. They are a collective of spirit guides that come to us and work with us through our dogs.
Mm, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I think a lot of people, so as you talk about the soul itself, some
Mhm.
people actually have a collective of souls that speak through them as well. So that makes
Oh,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. And they're a collective energy, like they're big energy.
Hmm.
They are very overwhelming sometimes to people who aren't used to working with their energy. So in the book is designed in a specific way so that you can get used to their frequency and the amount of energy they carry. So it's important that the book is read in the order that it's presented in the book for that reason, because as you get further along in the book, more and more of their frequency comes through.
That's great. So, do you have a dog that you worked with while you did this? While you learned?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had, yes, that's a loaded question.
Okay.
I had a transition of dogs, and that's one of the stories in the book. I thought I was done with dogs. I had a dog that was 12, and when she died, I was going to not have any more dogs. I was going to retire, travel the world. I didn't want to be tied down by a dog, and I was so excited that I wasn't going to have any more dogs after having dogs my entire life. And my husband just shook his head and he's like, I don't believe it. So I ended up having a calling from the dog to come find her. And I actually just put this up yesterday on my YouTube channel because she turned 3 years old yesterday, Gigi. And she started calling to me when she was in the womb of her mama. And I had to figure out who was calling me. I'm like, who? You know, it's like, hello, hello, who's talking to
Okay.
me? And I finally figured out it was a dog, and I finally figured out it was a corgi. And then I had to figure out where in the heck she was, how old she was. But yes, I did have a dog that I ended up connecting with, and she carries one of the guides with her, Eric, who is one of the most incredible, powerful, transformational guides I've worked with. And she is specifically here to get me connected to this interdimensional part of myself. That's her mission. So anytime I'm meditating or working with a client or even sleeping, she's always there, and she has to be there because one of her purposes is to serve as a guardian within that space. So if I am in a room meditating and I shut the door and she's not in there with me, she sits at the door and she's like, you have got to let me in. I've got to be in your space. So, yes, she has been by my side the whole time. And what's so fascinating about this is that you can't tell from the outside that anything's happening. They just look like dogs.
Mhm.
They just sleep and lay there, and they might look at you now and then, but they don't actually let on that they have any role in what's happening in your life. But they actually have a really big role in events in your life and opportunities, emotions, healing. And that's what I share in the book. I demonstrate through my life how they've shown me that they've been trying to interact with me this whole time.
Mhm. I love that. I think one of the amazing things about this ascension process that we're in is that we're becoming more and more aware of what's going on around us spiritually versus like physically. So we don't
Yeah.
care as much about the physical. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that they're here assisting.
Yeah.
There's so many beings here assisting right now.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
there's quite a variety. Yeah. There's a flavor for anybody, you know, like they just want to make sure we have all the opportunities and all the tools to help us get through this transition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a really beautiful experience. So tell me, how did you get into it? Obviously, it had to do with your dog. Tell me a little bit more about that guide that she's
Um,
connected to.
tell you about the guide or how I got into it.
How you got into it and then
Oh,
about the guide. Yeah.
okay. Well, I've always been connected with dogs. My mother says I started training dogs when I was 4. And I did become a professional dog trainer in my 30s. And I competed in 3 different dog sports nationally. So I had a very intense connection with many, many, many dogs. I had 30 of my own private dogs. So
Wow.
I always had, they were always in my life, but I thought that they were a hobby. Like I didn't think they were the mainstream or the main event. And so that's why I was so willing to walk away from it. But what I found out as I began to emerge out of my cocoon and my awakening began to happen, which was only last year, you guys, it was only 2022 that this door opened
Oh.
for me. And what I realized was that they were not the sideline of my life. They were the main event. They were the main attraction, the reason I was here. And I was flabbergasted. Number one, I was honored. And
Mhm.
number two, I thought, wow, how could I have gotten that so wrong? You know? But so I've always had a connection with them. And as I was churning in my cocoon, just like chomping at the bit, like, what am I supposed to do? It was an 11-year process where I was just in waiting. And I felt so alone and lost. And I was searching desperately for answers. And then finally, during COVID, during the lockdown, I got a really big message and a big sign, but I didn't know what it meant. I just knew that I was seeing something and I could feel the weight of it. I could
Mhm.
feel that it meant something big was coming. And this story's in the book, so I don't want to give away the details.
Yeah.
But so I knew something was coming, so I started to get ready. I said, this is huge. I'm going to need help. I started gathering my team. I had a numerologist, I had an astrologer, and I had a shaman that I worked with. And I
Mhm.
said, I don't know what's happening. Somebody needs to hold my hand through this. I don't know how to do this. So I had a support team that I could lean on and that could um, help kind of structure what was happening with me. And sure enough, at the beginning of it was February 22nd, 2022, when everything began, it just like clicked. And I was told I was supposed to write a book. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not an author. So it took me a while to realize that I was writing about dogs. And I thought, well, that's cool. I can write lots of stories about dogs. And then as I wrote the book, they started to shape the story. So I learned to channel as they were working with me. And the canine guides were actually healing me while I was writing the book. And some of the things they were healing within me were things I wasn't even aware of.
Mhm.
So it was a very deep process, profound changes were happening. My DNA was shifting. My cells were all reorganizing. And I was stepping into a whole new version of me, which is what the numbers and the astrologer told me was coming. You are
Yeah.
about to be reborn without ever dying. And I said, what? I didn't know what that meant. But that's exactly what happened. So that's how I became aware of and connected to and began to hear and channel the canine spirit guides. And what I didn't realize yet even was that it wasn't just the story I was going to share, but it was the healing frequency that I was going to share of the guides. So that's what I do in my work now. But the guide that you want more information about, Demanyalalan Eric, he's the only one of 4 guides that has 3 names. He resonates or identifies with the bald eagle and the pug. So these guides have a canine version and they have a wild animal version. So the canine gives us an example or a way to quickly identify what characteristics they work with, what behaviors they work with, sort of their personality. And then the wild animal side connects us with their energy and their omnipresence, because we've always used wild animals as sort of a spiritual marker, right?
Yeah.
Because of that energy they carry. So they identify as both animals, and when I work with them, sometimes we'll see the pug in front of us, or sometimes we'll see the eagle flying around. So it just depends on what they're sharing with you as far as which version they'll show you and what you need at that moment. But he is, I actually didn't meet him face to face spiritually until after I wrote the book. I had written down faithfully words that he told me to write in the book about him, describing him to the T, but I hadn't ever actually been in his presence. He was the only one I hadn't met during the process of writing the book. So after I wrote the book, I went to an ayahuasca ceremony as a gift to myself, as a celebration. I had never sat with ayahuasca. And I met him for the first time with ayahuasca. It was incredible the way they orchestrated all of it, because I had these beautiful journeys with ayahuasca. I had already cleared out my shadow sides and healed all of that stuff. So I had these beautiful transformational journeys. And ayahuasca came and she introduced me to Eric during the ceremony. And he is a magnificent energy. I compared him to Archangel Michael, because I've also met Archangel Michael, worked with him as well. And it's a very similar, overwhelming joy, love, peace, energy, and it's got a weight to it when I am in his presence. And Eric was the same way. And when he appeared to me, I just collapsed at his feet. I just felt so much divine joy and love. I couldn't even hold myself up. And I just collapsed. And he scooped me up in his wings, one wing under my shoulders and one wing under my knees. So I was in a W position and my body responded, and I literally, my heart rose and so did my knees. I'm like, what's happening? Off of my mat. And he lifted me up into Ascension. And he told me, you don't have to understand your pain, your past. You just need to let me take it from you. And that's his message. That's what he offers humanity. And that blew me away, because being from the science background that I am as a physical therapist, I always want to understand things, you know? And so do my clients. They want texture, they want meaning, they want explanations. And it slows the process down. It slows the opportunity down. And his biggest message is healing doesn't have to take time. It doesn't have to be a process. It can be instant if you allow it. And that was a beautiful message he delivered to me that day.
Yeah, that's totally true. The mind is what gets in the way, for sure.
Yeah, the ego has to categorize everything and make sure it's safe, you know.
Yep. Yeah, that's part of the programming that we're breaking right now. I think it's a beautiful thing to see. And people are coming at it from different angles and different, there's all these beings assisting, and a lot of them don't have a body.
Yeah.
So they're much more free to be themselves too, without the body.
Absolutely. So, well, if there's no body, there's no ego, right?
Yeah. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ego gets in our way.
It really does. I used to do a program called The Death of Ego, and
I love it.
People through you know, letting go of the ego. Now
Yeah.
I find it's good to do, to go through the Akashic records and deal with all the lifetimes. So
Yeah.
I do that instead, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, just get rid of all, you know, deal with all of it, heal it all. Because if you go through a shift, there's a lot of shifting
Hmm.
right now. And as you go through the shifts, it's good to deal with all planes of existence. I've been finding.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do it all
Um,
at once.
yeah. I mean, you need to deal with one thing at a time, one issue at a time. And probably, depending on how much it affects your life, maybe only one in a week, depending. You
Yeah.
know, it could be
Yeah.
something that colors every bit of your life. Um, but it's a really interesting time right now. And you're awakening. I feel like it gives another opportunity for people who are really enmeshed with their pets
Hmm.
to heal in a different way. Because,
Right.
you know, some people, that's where they're at. Like, their pets are a massive part of their life, and they're more willing also to heal through the pet than they would when it's addressed directly at them, I think.
Yeah. And also, this is one of the statements in my book. People are more willing to do things for the dog than for themselves, because
Yeah.
I did find myself saying that very thing during one of my stories. I would do it for the dog, but I wouldn't do it for myself.
Mhm.
So that'll capture that audience too.
Yeah. I just think any way that we can help ourselves go through this process, do it. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at with it. Like,
Whatever recipe works, just
yeah,
pick one. Yeah.
whatever works, because everybody has their own point of view, and you want to find what really truly speaks to you. And
Yeah.
we all have different oversouls, and then we have different, you know, higher selves and all of that. And if you're very enmeshed with the animal world, then I think that this is really going to help people.
Yeah. It makes it easier, you know? The more comfortable it is, the easier it is.
Yeah. And you can really truly relate to it. And then you don't have to have all the answers about it either.
Right.
Yeah.
You're more willing to trust.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's really true. So what else did you want to tell me today about this? I want to hear
Oh,
anything you have to
well,
tell me.
so my life has shifted quite hugely as far as
Mhm.
um spending the first 30 years of my adult life in the medical profession as a physical therapist and a
Yeah.
functional medicine practitioner. And now I am transitioned full tilt into energetic medicine. So this has been a huge change for me. And now I work with my clients energetically using the healing of the canine spirit guides. So this has been like a really fast transition. And thankfully, I have a husband that's very understanding, even though he doesn't believe in any of this.
Right.
He allows me to be who I need to be and to do what I need to do. And so he's just kind of stood by me this whole time and having no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And that's true love, you know. I've had a lot of that myself in my life, and it's like unconditional love, which is what we want to have in our lives. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. It's not all that easy to find these days.
No. But when you have it for yourself, I find that you find it reflected back to you. And I think
Yeah,
we've really been conditional with our own being. And we're kind of coming out of that now. We're seeing our own worthiness and how much we matter. And what we're doing is kind of like it's monumental right now, because the human race is ascending and
yeah,
everybody on earth is ascending right now. And it's such a massive thing because we're not just ascending Earth, we're ascending the multiverse. So
It's so cool. It's
it's
so
so cool.
exciting to be here at this time. You know, before all this happened, I was so frustrated with life. I was frustrated
Mhm.
with Earth. I was frustrated with humanity. I didn't see the point. I didn't see the purpose. I didn't want to be here. You know, beam me up, Scotty. I'm done. You know,
Yeah,
so now I feel so different. Now I see different things. I don't. The ugliness of the world doesn't bother me anymore because I'm way above it now. I know it's there, but it doesn't really affect me like it used to.
right. And once you take your attention away from it, it lessens, like it kind of falls away. And really, it's just a catalyst, all that
Yeah.
ugliness. And it is on the way out. So
Yeah.
that's exciting. That's
Yeah, that is really exciting.
mhm. It is big energies lately pushing
Yeah.
pushing things out. So
So these the book is about the first four canine spirit guides, and they call themselves the core four. So they're core concepts and healings that we need to undergo and understand before we can move forward. And then there are over 50 of the canine spirit guides, and they're going to be coming out a little bit faster now once
yeah,
once we get the ball rolling. I think the Essential 8 are next. They've been giving me some previews, so they're going to be a lot faster moving, a little bit lighter kind of technology. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes next. But
yeah, I
the
love that.
they've been doing some really great work with me and with my clients. So I'm really excited about having this option for people.
Hmm. Yeah. So to me, like in the lingo that I usually use with my audience, I would say that's the entire canine oversoul. So you're basically speaking to the oversoul, which is
Oh,
fabulous. So you're getting all this different information, different perspectives from different guides.
yeah.
They come from the collective oversoul of the canine.
Well, there's that, but then there's also another part to it. So they're combining with the oversoul, but they're also combining with other races too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
It's beautiful. I love that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and they carry the frequency of love. I mean, your dog is like the love frequency. So it's very important for right now because we're moving from being in fear, so making decisions from fear and polarity, into making decisions from love. So the heart is
Yes.
opening. So it is a perfect time for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So I had to wait for this perfect moment before I could come out of my cocoon because it
Well,
just
and
wasn't
I think you
timing.
were being primed. Your dog
Yeah.
was priming you the whole time, but then when you hit that date, you hit the certain frequency that opened you up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
It was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm so
wonderful.
excited when I see other people, go through it because everyone else is we're all chomping at the bit. We know we're here for a reason. We want to know, what is it? What is it? Let me just do it. And that's the hardest part, is just waiting until it's the right time and the right frequency, as you say. That's the hardest part, is trusting in that, having
Yeah,
faith.
it is. And in the meantime, just taking care of yourself and continuing to grow and continuing to shed stuff that's in the way, programming, ideas that no longer serve
Yeah.
you. There's this
Right.
huge cricket
Oh,
in
yeah.
here in the house
Oh, there
that
is.
just came in. Yeah, and I'm like, I keep looking at it. I'm like, oh my God.
What's his message?
Yeah, I know. Seriously, I'm like, wow, you're big. So I feel like right now is time to pay attention, not just to the human, but everything around you, because we're all ascending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the planet, the trees have been talking to me like
Oh yeah.
crazy. I mean, the plants, the even the grass, I mean, and the rocks. I mean, everything I notice now. I'm having conversations with everything on earth these days and sharing frequency,
Yeah.
and I never had an awareness of that before, you know?
Yeah, me either. Everything's coming alive right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
it is. It's
beautiful.
really beautiful. It's a really, like you said, it's an exciting time. So,
It really
um,
is.
yeah.
So
So
you
I'm just,
have a seminar coming up on Sunday. You want to
yeah.
talk a little bit about that before we wrap it up?
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a podcast that I usually air every couple weeks, except that, you know, if they push me to put something out now, then that's what I do.
Mhm.
And because the holidays are coming up, with Thanksgiving and then Christmas, they want me to introduce a new frequency download for those people who experience anxiety and stress, and especially the social anxiety. Like, one of the
Yeah.
stories I tell in my book is how I was so uncomfortable being around my family because of the family dynamics were not very healthy. And so the holidays always brought forward a lot of anxiety and stress for me, just
Mhm.
knowing that they were coming up. So the canine guides want to offer a download frequency for those that feel that way and need a little extra support to help elevate them through that pain during the holidays. And that's what we're going to be doing. And then in December, I have a half day workshop where I'm going to bring in two of the guides, and we're going to be working on core issues with Anthea and Oscar.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And that's all on my webpage, all of those, all that information on heatherleestrom.com.
Okay. And we'll put that below along with your YouTube channel and your book link on
Oh,
Amazon.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get the
Yeah.
book anywhere, but you can also, there's a link on my webpage.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Yeah.
I recorded the audiobook myself. So all the frequency is contained, especially in the audiobook, but also in the physical print book too.
Yeah. That's really important.
Yeah.
It's really important. The voice is like an amazing frequency machine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I had some people tell me that they had to, I didn't know you could do this, but they had to slow down the audio on the audiobook. I didn't know
oh,
you could do that. And I couldn't figure out why, because when I recorded it, I meticulously managed my speed, just like I'm talking now. I'm not a fast talker. And I thought, what's going on there? Well, what was happening was they couldn't tolerate the frequency, and they had to turn down the speed so they could tolerate it a little bit better.
yeah.
So people are noticing the frequency of the message. And then sometimes when people read the book, they can't get past a certain point because they're not ready for the next frequency, the elevation of frequency that happens midway through the book. So they put it down because they're just like, I'm full, I can't take anymore. so
Yeah.
so try and get past that bump if you can, because it will help elevate your frequency if you can tolerate that.
It will, and it'll push. So if someone kind of triggers you, or if you feel exhausted when you're listening to something, just stick with it as long as you know it's not bad for you, but stick with
Yeah.
it so that you get those frequencies, because it is pushing old gunk out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And the more that the gunk gets moved out, the more you can hold that frequency.
exactly.
So, and that's one thing that the guides help people with, is the ability to hold that frequency. Because if you're falling asleep, or your mind is wandering, or you're getting bored, then you're trying to avoid the frequency because you're feeling that way. So
Yeah,
keep reading it, read it over and over again until you get to the point where you can stay with it, because that means that you're elevating your own frequency.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That used to happen to me when I was learning how to talk to my higher self.
Uh-huh.
And I would start to fall asleep during like the videos that taught you how to do it.
Uh-huh.
So it really is true. Like if you can't handle it, you will fall asleep. Your ego will make you fall asleep.
Yeah.
ego will say you're too busy, whatever
Yeah.
is going on.
And your
So
nervous
stick with
system
it.
will short circuit and just take you out.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
if that's
And
the case,
I do have a meditation program. It's just a little mini meditation. It's like 6 sessions that I offer on my webpage that help people get through that bump. And it's
great.
channeled sessions so that it allows you to expand to that level pretty quickly.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Heather Leigh. I'm glad you came.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
honey.
you.
Thank you for the invite.
You're
It's been
welcome.
delightful meeting you too. I've heard so much about you.
Yeah, we're having fun. We met through a mutual friend named Sky, and I'm going to have
Yeah.
Sky on to talk about trees. So,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
I've got to watch that one too. I love
yeah,
trees, and she is a tree girl.
she is a tree girl.
She's like a monkey.
She is, she's climbing them and communing all the time. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. It's
Yep.
great.
She's the tree
Okay.
shaman.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. Well, thank
Yeah.
you. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope all the audience has a beautiful day. And if you have animals, I would definitely check this out.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.